Hello, dirty girls. Welcome to Training Tuesday. And I don't know about you, but in New England, we're freezing. I think I've had more conversations today about the weather than possibly at any other time. A lot of weather conversations today, and mostly I think because most of the country is having some pretty extreme temperatures, not just New England. It's happening in New England, but it's not just New England. I know the Midwest is experiencing some craziness. I think in the Southwest, they're still having summer. I don't know. Everywhere else, we are freezing. So when I say let's talk in our outdoor voice, I don't mean let's go outdoors. I'm just going to say that because right now my driveway is like 5 inches of packed ice, and I don't think anybody should be out there. So, but I do want to talk about this idea of speaking in our outdoor voice and what that means, what that's meant historically, maybe what it means for us to start thinking about how we use our outside voice today. I don't know how many of you were told when you were kids to shush and to not use, it's time to use your indoor voices. Indoor voices. And I know that unilaterally, boys and girls, we were both told to use our indoor voices because I think teachers and librarians really like to say that. But I also think we interpreted those instructions differently. I think more or less along gender lines, we've interpreted those instructions differently because I think boys really looked at that as that is a temporary instruction for me to kind of lower my voice as long as I'm in this room or for the next 3 minutes that I can possibly handle it. And for girls, it was I have to speak quietly, softly, or not at all if I'm going to be approved of, liked, if I'm going to be a good girl. And I think we as women typically, when we get an instruction like that, we apply it across the board as a pattern to all things. Whereas boys really just looked at it as, okay, for the next 3 minutes that I can possibly stand it, indoor voice. And then they moved on. But we didn't because we always had our antenna out looking for how do we make other people how do we make other people comfortable? How do we make them like us? So if using my quiet indoor voice is the way to do it, then I'm going to use it all the time because that seems to make people comfortable and happy, which is just another way of women growing up and learning to play small. Learning to play small. And look who's here. It's Miss Christine, and it's Joyce, and it's Terry. Do I see everybody? I think I see everybody. So hello. Thank you. Welcome for joining. I feel like there were more names down there, but I'm not seeing all the comments because Facebook is fun that way. Lovely to see you, though. Thank you for being here. Christine, an old boyfriend told me to use my indoor voice during an argument. That's the equivalent of calm down. Stop crying, right? When does that ever work? When does that ever work? So, all right. So here's the deal, my friends. We're going to talk about outdoor voices. We're really just going to talk about speaking up in our loud voice. So before I dive in, welcome to Training Tuesday. My name is Natalie Hahn. I am your coach and your host tonight as we talk about all things related to leadership and building self-confidence and using our loud voices and moving forward in our careers and getting what we want out of life. So for my friends who have joined me tonight already, and there's Tracy. Tracy, I thought I saw you. Tracy Hebert's here. For those of you who know me, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you guys here and participating. And for anybody watching and joining us for the first time or on replay, hello, say hello in the comments. Participate, answer questions, ask questions, volunteer information. That is what we're here for. So let's get back into why we need to practice using our outdoor voice. Still today, 2025, still today, half of women in leadership positions in business, half of them, still say it's hard for them to speak up at work. We're in leadership positions. We're already leading and we're finding it hard to figure out how to loosen up the throat chakra. 80% of women experience microaggressions at work. So the direct aggression is like when, Kevin in the staff meeting interrupts you, or somebody makes a direct negative comment around something that you said, or something that you've done. The microaggressions are the more subtle things that you may or may not always catch, or they may even be a little bit of gaslighting. You may be wondering what they meant like that. Somebody raises an eyebrow. Somebody rolls their eyes. Somebody leaves the room in the middle of your speaking, right? These are the microaggressions that they ding us, they sting us. They're not so overt. They didn't necessarily shut anything down, but they had an impact. 1/5 of you, 1/5 of all women at work feel they are ignored. Opinions don't matter. They're not heard. They're not seen. Nobody cares what they think. And over 30% of you, over 30%, will be interrupted by a man when you speak. So I thought about that. I thought that means for every 10 words I utter, 3 of those are going to be stepped on by some guy at work. Dynamics are fun and the data is fun. This is the thing though. This is still the situation at work. In the workplace, women are still paid less, ignored more, and feeling like we don't have the voice that we are supposed to have. And there's a reason for this, right? There is a reason we don't speak up. There's a whole history of how women entered the workplace. It's still a relatively new thing if you look historically. But then there's all these other reasons why we don't speak. Hey, Jan's here from the chaos of DC. Yeah. So I started this, Jan, when I first jumped on this live talking about the weather because it's been so insane. And I've literally been telling people all day that I'm waiting for like the locust and the toads to start because it's been insane. And I kind of feel like that's what's happening in DC right now. Locusts and toads. There's just chaos everywhere. The weather, the politics. All right. Back to tonight, though. Back to why we're going to speak in our loud voice. So, historical reasons why we don't speak up. One is we're not in the habit of it. We've spent a lifetime being told that we have to be seen and not heard, that we have to be quiet, demure, that we have to defer to other people, the people in charge, to men, right? Not be so loud, not take up so much space. So we're used to toning ourselves back and down and playing it safe. Nice toads, Christine. We are also used to hitting some sort of punishment or penalty when we do speak up, right? We're worried about being judged. Will we be seen as a troublemaker? Will we be seen as a loudmouth? Right? Will somebody punish us because we raised a question that they thought we shouldn't have raised, or we voiced an opinion that we didn't agree with? The other side of this is our own fear of judgment. Maybe not punishment, but judgment. Will I look stupid? Should I have known this already? Do I look like I'm not prepared? Did somebody already ask this question? Isn't it interesting? When we have a question, the first thing we do is we doubt ourselves. We don't think, hey, they didn't cover this, or they didn't think of this, or wow, there's a big gap in that plan. I wonder about this piece. We think, I must have missed that part of the presentation. I must have misunderstood what they said. We doubt ourselves first, right? We take that judgment and we turn it on ourselves, and then we're afraid of speaking up. We're afraid of voicing the opinion. We're afraid of asking the question. We're afraid of saying the thing because we figure everybody's going to look at us and they're going to judge us. And they are, by the way, but we'll get to that later. One of the reasons we don't speak up is to avoid harassment. Women are harassed in the workplace by men and by other women more than men are ever harassed in the workplace. And there's this feeling of shame. There's this feeling of being a troublemaker. There's this feeling of asking for it. It's not right, but we do, a lot of us, carry that bit of a mindset with us. We want to avoid the mansplaining. Like, don't you love it when a guy takes your opinion and then explains it back to you? or the bro-propriating, one of my favorite words, bro-propriating, where you voice your opinion and then a guy turns around and restates it but then claims it as his own brilliant idea. Yeah. We avoid breaking the patterns because breaking the patterns is hard. And the judgment piece, I want to get back to the judgment piece is real. I mentioned this, I don't know, maybe a year ago in a different Training Tuesday, but back in 2019, there was a study that presented the same conversation, a CEO presenting a case, presenting something to their team, and they created two fictional CEOs. They created a man and a woman who presented the exact same speech, exact same words to the team. So if you take a norm of okay, take a norm at 0 of this is average, this is okay, neutral. When people were asked to rate the male CEO based on his speech and what he said in his leadership, they rated him 10 points higher than neutral. 10 points higher than neutral for that speech. The woman CEO gave the exact same speech. Guess what she scored? Guess what she scored? She scored, again, neutral. Man is 10% higher. Woman is scored 14% below the neutral. 14% lower. Exact same speech. 24-point gap in perceptions based on gender. This is a problem. So our fear of judgment is a very real fear. I'm not going to downplay that. Despite that reality, we have to speak up. We have to speak up. So I'm sorry, I saw there were a couple of comments. Let me see what we've got here. Joyce, your mom raises her voice so everyone can hear her, but she doesn't sound irate when she has a complaint that isn't being addressed. So there's something powerful about a woman who is loud and takes up space, and people immediately don't like it, including other women. We immediately don't like it because of our training. I love that your mom does that. Refuses to play small. Yes, Terry, exactly. We don't speak up because we want to avoid being labeled, and absolutely limits us. It absolutely limits us. So that's exactly what I was going to get into now, right? This is the question, guys. What happens if you don't speak up? And Terry's already answered it for us. Right? We limit ourselves. Here's the deal. The frustration you're feeling at work about not being heard, not being seen, not being recognized, it's self-perpetuated when we don't use our voice. We bring it on ourselves when we refuse to speak up. And we might think, why bother? What's the point? We're going to get to that. But what happens is we are perpetuating the pattern of not being seen and not being heard when we don't use our voice, which limits our upward mobility. It means we don't get invited to the leadership table. And you guys know this from many Training Tuesdays, what happens when you combine really hard work, lots of hard work? You combine hard work with no support, no recognition, no validation. What's that combination? The combination of hard work, complete lack of support or recognition or validation, is the magical recipe for burnout. For burnout, total dissatisfaction, depression, anxiety, stress, because you know that there's more. You know there's more for you to give. You know you have more to say, more to do, more to accomplish, and you are in an environment that is not recognizing it, but also you are not forcing, like Joyce's mom is, you are not forcing the recognition. This then leads to an impact on everything else in your life. Because think about this. If this is what's happening to you at work, how do you feel? How do you feel about doing your job? How do you feel about the workplace in general? How do you feel about the work that you're doing? How engaged are you at work? Like, where's your energy going to? Is your energy going to doing your best work and bringing your best ideas forward? Or is your energy going to trying not to grumble and gripe to your BFF at work every minute of the day about what a sucky place it is, right? Because we spend a lot of energy. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We spend 2 hours a day, 2 hours a day with energy that goes to negativity at work when we are unhappy. And here's the thing. You take that energy that you've spent 8 to 10 hours at work nurturing that negative energy, and then you bring it home. You bring it home. So you're exactly right, Terry. Less motivated to work, and then you bring that energy home, and guess what you're also less motivated to do? You're less motivated to engage with your spouse or your partner. You're less motivated to have fun hanging out, playing with your kids. Certainly less motivated to cook dinner or do any household chores, to work out, to take care of yourself. Your stress, your anxiety, that energy, you bring it home. We think we're really good at compartmentalizing, and that there's the work me, and there's the home me, and there's the playtime me with my friends, and it's not true. It's not true. How you show up anywhere is how you show up everywhere. You might dial certain characteristics up and down, but it's still you. And if you are stressed, trust me, in ways you may not recognize, it's bleeding through, and it is impacting your relationships. It is impacting your self-care. It is impacting where your head's at. On your weekends, is your head focused on whatever fun thing you're doing? You're going for a hike, or you're taking a painting class, or you're hanging out with your girlfriends, or is your head ruminating over that last irritating staff meeting where you didn't speak up, but Kevin hogged the microphone the whole time, and you really just want to squash him with a shovel, right? Where's your head at? Now, when you consider all this, we consider the negative energy, and we're not speaking up, and we're feeling limited in our career, and we're not being heard or recognized. It's a pattern. Not speaking up is a pattern. So, if you don't stop the pattern now, where will you be in 3 months? If you don't start breaking the pattern now, where will you be in 6 months? If you don't break the pattern, you don't go anywhere, right? You swirl in the same place. What happens to your job, to your career? What happens to your relationships if nothing changes right now? That's the question you ask yourself anytime you're faced with having to break a pattern. And the reason why that's an important question, to identify, if I don't make a change today, where will I be in 3 months, 6 months, a year? It's important to ask that question because that's what tells you, first of all, how much pain are you in right now? We don't make change. We don't break a pattern. We don't change a pattern unless we're in sufficient pain that we feel we have to. And 2, if you're ever questioning why you are not achieving your goals, if you're ever questioning why you're not moving forward, I guarantee you there is a habit or a pattern that is in your way. And it helps you identify, I don't speak up. This is one of the patterns that's keeping me from my goals. So now I have to decide, am I ready to break that pattern now? Or do I need to be in more pain before I break the pattern? Because sometimes we identify the pattern, we know it's one, we know we need to change it, but you know what? Just not ready yet. Just not there yet. So envisioning where you'll be if you keep procrastinating on the change is helpful for you to figure out, well, how much more of this pain can I take? It also then begs you to answer the question, what is this costing me? If I don't speak up, I know it's costing me my career goals. I know that it might be costing me something in my relationships. It's certainly impacting my peace of mind, my self-care. The number one thing that's being impacted is your trust and your belief in yourself. The longer that you can see, I have a pattern that isn't working for me, but I am not taking steps to change this pattern, the more you realize that you are the one who's creating the block, and you start losing confidence in yourself. You start losing faith in yourself to work through the changes, because it's absolutely possible. It's just not easy, not fun. So then you have to ask, what is it worth? Is it worth me staying stagnant in my career? Is it worth me having a relationship that's not very communicative or not very connected? Is it worth me spending my weekends wishing I had handled a conversation differently with Kevin? Is it worth it? So, when you are ready to break the pattern and you are ready to use your voice, here's some things you should do. And I think I have 8 things, which is a lot because I usually try to limit these to like 3 things, 5 things, 7 if I'm squeezing it is. And I think today I have 8. So we'll go through them kind of quickly. They're not going to be foreign to you guys. You know, you've heard them before because these types of things come in handy whenever we're trying to break any pattern. Here's the thing I want you to remember. The hard part in this is not the actual speaking up. It's not the using your voice. You know what you want to say. You know you have something to say. It's breaking the pattern. Pattern breaking is hard. Speaking up is not hard. Pattern breaking is. So it doesn't matter what the pattern is. When you are in the habit of not using your voice because of the judgment, the repercussions, the environment that you're in, it's not so much I have to learn to use my voice, it's I have to break the pattern of staying silent. So recognize that the pattern breaking, it's hard. Okay. First thing you're going to do, you've got to ground into your self-confidence because you do have something to say. You have to acknowledge who you are, that you have values and ideas that are worth bringing to the table. Grounding into your self-confidence means putting yourself in the right mindset, that you are powerful, that you are strong, that you can do anything. And yes, it is that over-the-top ridiculous confidence. I have, as an example, I have an amazing group of girlfriends on a group chat, and almost every day, not every single day, but almost every day, one of them sends one or more memes, TikTok videos, something along those lines, that is all about the, hey, you are an amazing badass, go crush it. All the time. And we all see those videos. We've all seen them all over Instagram, TikTok, your Facebook feed, whatever. We've all seen the videos and we all laugh and go, ha ha, that's silly, that's over the top, that's fun. And we also go, hell yeah, that's me. I am a badass after all, aren't I? We all take energy and encouragement from that. So even when it seems like ridiculously over the top, take your power and your energy from that because it's there. Now, you could start a group chat with your friends. You could just do it with one friend. You could do it with your mom, your kid. Doesn't matter, right? Finding something that builds up that good energy. If you're not into memes and videos, then I highly recommend that you all take 10 minutes this weekend and you find yourself a theme song. The theme song is the you are walking on stage to claim your award for whatever amazing thing you do. What's the song they're playing as you walk up on stage? We know at every awards ceremony, somebody is playing Eye of the Tiger. Somebody is playing Rocky. Somebody is playing Katy Perry, Roar, right? Somebody, all the Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive, right? Somebody, there's a theme. Those are all the classic ones. Find yours. Find the theme song that pumps you up full of energy and pride and has you going, hell yeah, I can do this. You only need to listen to 20 seconds of that song. Listen to a minute, 2 minutes of it while you're brushing your teeth to just shift the mood and the mindset into that more powerful, more confident space. So I want to know what your theme song is. And you just have it on your phone, ready to play anytime you need a boost. Now, if you are in a meeting and Kevin is saying something annoying, and so you can't just blast out Katy Perry's Roar to boost yourself up before you say something, then you need a mantra. You need a sentence. You need one powerful sentence that reminds you of who you are and that you are powerful and you have the right to speak. And maybe the sentence is something along the lines of, I am a leader and I know what I'm talking about. Maybe it's, I have opinions and they matter. Think of your mantra. What is a mantra that helps you remember that your voice is worth being heard? That you have ideas that deserve to be expressed, that you are a powerful person, that you are an intelligent person, an experienced person, compassionate, empathetic, wise, and whatever it is you have to say, you deserve to say it. Find your mantra. So mantra for the moments when you can't blast your theme song for every day when you're brushing your teeth, okay? And if you're into them, find a meme, find a video, find something that you can share with others to spread the energy and spread the joy. Okay, that's number one. Oh, that was number one. Number two, you have to remember that you have the right. You have the right to speak. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to defend it. You have the right to speak. You have a contribution to make. You have a perspective to share. You have an idea to consider. You have a question because you need more clarity, or you're curious and you want more information. You need more context. You have a right to speak. Think about the fact that it doesn't actually matter what you say. It's the practice of saying it that matters. You deserve to be heard. As long as you practice using your voice, it doesn't matter what the response is. The exercise in being powerful and using your voice isn't because everybody responds positively. They won't. The powerful practice of being heard is that you use your voice regardless of the response. So you have to believe you have the right to use it, which leads to the fact that we don't control the responses. So you have to trust your resilience. Number three, you're going to be judged. Positive, negative, neutral, you're going to be judged. And guess what? The judgment of everyone else over your idea, or whether your question was smart or not, or what you know or what you don't know, or any of it, their judgment of you is not your business. I've said it before. I'm sure you've heard other coaches online and other places say it before, but it's true. Other people's judgment of you is not your business. I get judged all the time when I do these videos, when I put my ads out there, and I will get comments back from people of, did you put on weight, or your hair is going gray, or that sweater looks great on you. Your glasses are cool. That sweater's terrible on you. Why is your room such a mess, right? Explosion of color. Good, bad, or indifferent, their opinions don't matter. Their opinions don't matter. What matters is that I'm here. Every Tuesday that I can make it, I am here. I try to be here as consistently as possible to express the ideas and information that I want to share. And for those of you who are a receptive and willing audience, it's here for you to pick up and take with you what works and leave what doesn't. And it's here for me to motivate me to say, okay, as I share more, as I give more, I also want to learn more. I also grow more. So it's my own self-perpetuating motivation. But when I get the negative comments, when I get the feedback that this didn't land, or, you know, your room's a mess, or whatever, I get all kinds of things. Not my business if they don't like it. They don't have to watch, they don't have to tune in, they can leave the group, they can unfriend me on Facebook, whatever it is. The other thing to keep in mind in your resilience toolkit, just because someone disagrees with you, just because someone, there's a fallout, just because there's some sort of fallout over what you said, doesn't nullify what you said. It doesn't nullify the fact that you spoke up. That's the most important part. It doesn't mean that you were wrong. And if you were wrong, it still doesn't mean that you shouldn't have spoken up, right? So sometimes when we speak up, we offer an opinion or we share an idea or something, and we find out later, oh, here's this piece of information that I didn't have before, and now it shows that I was wrong. The opinion I offered was an incorrect opinion because it's flat out factually wrong. Okay, but I didn't know that at the time. What makes me a leader is not saving my opinions for only when I have all the facts and all the information. It's the fact that I had an opinion, I was willing to state it based on what I know now. Here's what I'm willing to share, and here's what I think. Now that I have new information, I can have a different opinion. We have to be okay with not having all the answers, with not being perfect, with knowing that we're gonna use our voice and we're gonna step in it. We're gonna put our foot in our mouth. We're gonna be wrong sometimes. It's just how it is. The more that we cling to the idea that other people's judgment matters and we're afraid of it, and therefore we can't be wrong, the more we stifle our own voice. That's 3. 4, reframe. Reframe the question. The question isn't, should I speak up? The question is, what's the cost if I don't? If I don't speak up, are decisions being made without my input? Are ideas not being shared and acted upon, so we have no innovation, no change? Sometimes when we are silent, that is the higher risk. If I don't speak up, will I go home feeling very disappointed in myself? Will I go home resenting the fact that I didn't speak up? Will I go home resenting the fact that I wasn't heard? I have ideas. Why didn't they ask me? You didn't speak up. Will I perpetuate confusion? I didn't ask the question. I wasn't sure, but I didn't ask the question. Now nobody's sure. Now I have gaps in my knowledge. Or maybe I'm scrambling and I have to do extra work to figure things out because I didn't ask the question. I didn't clarify. I didn't get curious. I didn't use my voice. So reframe the question not to should I speak up, but what happens if I don't? 5, friendly tip. If you have data, stats, facts, use them. Sometimes we're so busy voicing our opinion that we forget, even if we have it, we forget to throw in the data or the statistics or the research that informed our opinion. It's not that your opinion doesn't matter, but when you can, or isn't valid on its own, because it is. But when you can cite sources that also support your point of view, you are bringing extra ammunition to the battle. You are bringing extra information and extra validity to whatever the statement is. You're not always going to have data and facts, and it's not always going to be appropriate. I'm just saying when you do, use it. Don't skip over that part. Something that is often looked over. This is number 6. Number 6, something we do often skip or overlook is how important it is to use your network. Use your network. Collect allies, collect partners in ideas, and use them, especially in group meetings. So collective support, you can still be the front man. You can still offer an opinion, but when you do it as a team or as a group, it's a lot easier. So the role I'm in right now in corporate America, I'm a team of 9. There's 9 of us. And sometimes going into these team meetings, I may have an opinion that I know not everybody's going to agree with. So what I will often do is go to 2 or 3 other of my peers in this group and say, hey, here's what I've been thinking about. What do you think? And I get their opinion on it. And I get their feedback. And I will go to them and say, hey, I have this idea, or I disagree with this statement that was made, and I want to bring this up at the team meeting. This is what I'm thinking about. If I say this, will you back me up? And I flat out ask them, if I say this, will you back me up? Because what I'm looking for is the support. And 9 times out of 10, the people I go to will go, yeah, absolutely, I'll back you up. Or yes, if you say that, then I can add this, right? And now we've created a collective conversation. Because here's the fear, right? We go to a team meeting or at a staff meeting or something like that, and we raise a question or an issue or something we want to address. We raise it, and then there's silence. Nobody says anything. Nobody engages, nobody speaks up, and then it dies. It withers away. There's no conversation. It was never discussed. You raised it, nobody responded, and now you're frustrated. Because I used my voice, nothing happened. Okay, the win was that you used your voice. But if it's something you really want something to happen with, what happens when I say, hey, I have this idea, I know we talked about this, but I'm thinking about a different way, and I want to raise it to the group. when one of my coworkers who I've already talked to about the idea jumps in and says, "Oh yeah, I think that's a great idea and here's what I would do," or "I think that's really interesting to consider. Have you thought about this?" What we've created now is a conversation. So I've gone from just introducing an idea to actually creating a conversation because I prepped a couple of my work friends to come help me lead this conversation. I still may not get my way, but at least we had a discussion about it and it wasn't ignored and it wasn't avoided, and the people who didn't like it couldn't just tamp it down. Created a conversation. So use your work allies to help you do that. Which leads to 7. What did I say? I said the fact that you spoke up is the win. The response to what you said is irrelevant. The muscle we're trying to build here is using your voice, your loud voice. In Terry's mother's case, your very, very loud voice, right? So that you are undeniably heard, and then you celebrate the win. It doesn't matter if they shot down your idea. It doesn't matter if somebody walked out of the meeting muttering, "Oh, that was stupid." Don't care. First of all, their opinion's none of your business. Second, they're stupid. Third, the win is that you said it. You said it. The more that you say it, the more you get heard. So when you are heard in leadership, it's not because you're right all the time. When you are perceived as someone who speaks up and leads with their voice, who's seen and who's visible, it's not because everything you say is right. It doesn't have to be. It's because you said it. It's because you're putting yourself out there to be seen, to be visible. It's not because you're correct. So when you can let go of the perfectionism, when you can trust that you have the resilience to bounce back on those times when you are wrong, because there will be times, on the times when you put your foot in your mouth, because there will be times. But if you can trust in your resilience to bounce back from that, celebrate the wins. The very first time you go to a staff meeting and you say, "At next week's team lunch, I do not want fried bologna," that's a win because you said it. Now, it could be everybody else goes, "But we love fried bologna." Fine. I'm bringing my own ham and cheese sandwich. You all eat your fried bologna. I'm just saying, not all of us love fried bologna. The win isn't that you win the argument. The win is that you said it. Because once you say that, it makes it so much easier at the next team meeting to say, "Oh, and guess what? I don't want iced tea either. I prefer fruit punch." And the next time after that, it becomes easier to say, "You know that idea you had about that program? I was thinking about this." Start small, low risk, build your way up to voicing your opinion, your questions, your ideas about the bigger, higher risk topics. But practice with the small ones and celebrate the small wins. Remember, we're exercising a muscle. Day 1, you can run half a mile. Week 2, you can run 3/4 of a mile. Week 4, you can run 1.5 miles. And by week 10, you've done a 5K. But you didn't start with the 5K, right? You started with the smaller wins. So start small, celebrate small, exercise the muscle. That's 7. 8. Yes, 6. 6 is awesome, Christine. 6 is one of my favorites because it's political. It's a political move to be able to go get allies and build it up. It's also super easy, and especially if the idea or the concept or whatever it is you're proposing is something that your coworkers really do support, they are more than happy to let you be the mouthpiece, but they can support you. Or vice versa. They want to be the mouthpiece, but then you can support them. In either case, you're both heard. Because it's not always about who said it first. It's about who's having the conversation. Okay. Sorry, we got to number 8, and I know we're already 40 minutes in. 8. 8. Speak with power. Speaking with power means a couple of really simple things. Really simple things that would tweak the way that you show up and present yourself immediately if you're guilty of some of the flaws, right? First, do not rush your speech. Something that we are all, including myself, really guilty of is we get up there, we get in front of a crowd, we're a little bit nervous, the heart is pounding, and I've been practicing this. I know what I want to say, so I just dive in and I start blah, 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 blah. I probably even do it on Training Tuesdays. I talk fast naturally. I do try to slow myself down. But when we're nervous, we tend to talk even faster. When you talk fast, you don't give the impression that you know what you're talking about. You give the impression that you're in a rush, that you're hurried, that you might be uncertain because you're stumbling to get it all out. So, rule number 1, do not rush your speech. If you have to take a breath and pause between sentences, do it. You will be surprised when you're on the receiving end how much more natural the speech sounds when you take it at a slightly slower pace. It's easier to understand. It's easier to stay engaged because my brain is not rushing trying to keep up with you tripping over your words. I'm now engaged with the content of your words, not just trying to keep up. So that takes practice. It takes a little bit of self-awareness in the moment, but do not rush. The other way you speak with power, watch the words you choose. Do not insert what we call qualifiers or justifications. In other Training Tuesdays where I talk about speaking powerfully, there's a couple of them. I've talked to you guys about certain phrases, right? You know what they are. I know Terry for sure. I think all of you, actually, I'm looking at who's here tonight. All of you know what they are. I'm sorry, but do you have a minute? I'm sorry, I don't mean this to sound stupid, but that's a double qualifier. I'm sorry, and I don't mean it to sound stupid, right? We put in these little phrases that we think soften our approach, and they don't soften it, they weaken it. I know I'm new, but I know you have more experience than me, but when we put a phrase with a but, we're qualifying or we're justifying that we have a right to speak. The truth is I have a right to speak. I don't need to apologize for it. I don't need to remind you that I'm new. I don't need to remind you that you have more experience. So stop qualifying because it makes us look like we're not even sure of what we think. Takes away our power. Third piece in speaking powerfully is actually to listen. It's to listen. Take in the questions, take in the feedback. Our biggest fear with getting questions or getting feedback is that we won't have an answer. And this is where we have to go back to the resilience and say, you know what? It's okay. It's okay that I don't have an answer. Practice answering questions with, great question. I have to think about that. Let me get back to you. Or, I'll need to look into that a little bit more. Let me get back to you. There's nothing wrong with not having an answer in the moment. You don't have to have all the answers in the moment. If you asked someone else a question after they gave a presentation or spoke up at a meeting, and they looked at you and said, I hadn't thought about that. Let me get back to you. What's your response? Do you immediately think, well, they're stupid. Well, they don't know what they're talking about. You don't. You think, oh, great. I said something valid. They're going to think about it and get back to me. That's awesome. Best of all circumstances. This belief that we have to have all the answers all the time, that we have to be ready for all the feedback, is that perfectionist gremlin telling you, if you don't have it all nailed down perfect, then you failed. So it's okay to not have the answers, but the important thing in being a powerful speaker is to be a powerful listener. Listen to the feedback you're getting. Take the feedback that's valid, that's going to improve your position, that's going to open up a new idea or a new door. And remember, not all feedback is valid. Somebody's going to say something about the stupid obnoxiousness of my very bright curtains, and you know what? Oh well. Okay. Maybe it's valid in terms of the curtains are bright. They are very colorful. It's not your typical kind of whitewashed background or, anything like that. Those are my actual curtains. And if they don't like it, that's their opinion. That's none of my business. But I hear you. Maybe it's distracting. Maybe it's not as clean a background as most designers or other people would like. But it's mine, and I like it. And I've decided that's more important to me. So not all feedback is valid, or not all feedback deserves your response. Let me put it that way. Not all feedback deserves your response or requires your response. You guys have heard me say this before also. My favorite quote from Queen Elizabeth I. She was called the Virgin Queen, not because she was a virgin, but because she just never married. But for every marriage proposal she got, and she got many because there were many men out there who wanted to be King of England, and that's why she never gave up her crown. To every proposal she responded with, "I will carefully consider your proposal. Thank you." And that's it. I will take this under careful consideration. If you have negative feedback about my glasses, my sweater, my curtains, how messy my room is, the dog who's sleeping back there, I will take your feedback under careful consideration. Doesn't mean I'm going to do a damn thing about it, but it does mean I acknowledge that you had an opinion, you used your voice and shared it, and good for you. You can now go celebrate that win. All right, so speaking powerfully means don't rush, don't qualify or justify what you're about to say, and listen. Make the time to listen and sift through the questions and feedback. All right, so I'm going to go through all. I know we're late, guys. We're going to go through 8 really quickly, right? What did we say? Ground yourself in your self-confidence. Get your power song, your power mantra. Get it going on that you remind yourself that you are a powerful person. 2, remind yourself you have the right. You have the right to speak up. 3, trust your resilience. So whether you speak up and the response is positive, negative, or indifferent, you're going to survive it. You're going to be fine. 4, reframe the question from should I speak up to what happens if I don't? What's the impact if I don't speak up? 5, use data, facts, statistics when you have them. 6, leverage your network. Talk to your people. Get your people to support you. 7, celebrate the small wins, no matter how small. And 8 is speak with power. Okay, this is how we practice using our outside voice. And I want you to remember the most important thing is we can go through all those things, we can do all those things. This is a pattern we're breaking. It's a pattern we're breaking. The pattern is not how to speak up. The pattern is that we don't, that we quash ourselves. Breaking a pattern is hard. It requires constant practice and self-awareness. So if you are finding it difficult to break this pattern, 1, start smaller. If you're finding it difficult and it's hard to speak up, if you're finding it hard, then you need to start with a smaller challenge to speak up. And maybe the speaking up is with your partner. Maybe the speaking up is with your kids and setting a boundary with your mother. But make it small. Make it something easier. Maybe it really is about the lunch order every Tuesday at work. Nobody else has to know that you're working on breaking a pattern. You need to know that you are working on breaking a pattern. Start small, work your way up. Celebrate the wins so that you continue to build that muscle. It's hard. It takes consistency and practice, and we don't do it alone. Tap into your friends, your network, your peers, this group, this community. Call me, whatever you need to get the support to break this pattern, because this pattern is the most common self-perpetuating pattern that keeps us stuck and small at work. If you have big career goals, this is the one. This is the one that will quash you. Ladies, that is it for Training Tuesday. We did a long one tonight, but thank you. There's a lot to say when you talk about saying things. Thank you for sticking with me for this brilliant, very cold Tuesday. I hope you all have a fabulous week. Thank you, Christine, for the compliment on my curtains. I hope you guys all have a fantastic week, and I will be here next Tuesday. Oh, and next Tuesday is what? This Tuesday is 5. It's the 5th in this series of how we tap into our boss energy. So stay tuned for that. All right, ladies, have a great night.